podcast listeners, guess what? Something new coming your way. A new series called Cruzin With The Coaches. We got some topics that we definitely know you want to hear, and hopefully you enjoy our inaugural episode as much as we enjoyed doing it. Stay tuned, because that's coming up next. All right, everybody, welcome back from that short break. This is the inaugural episode of Cruising with the Coaches. It is part of the Live All Good podcast family. You can find it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, just about anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'd like to introduce our co-host, Julie Cruz. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing good. It's funny that we're putting this together. This Cruising with the Coaches is really a conversation with Julie and Lee, right?
Right.
That's what we're doing here. But we want to cover topics that come up in daily life, topics that we think are important. But we also want to bring up things that other people think are important too. And for anyone who may not have a voice that's being heard, we want to make sure we try to, represent that.
Exactly.
So before we jump into our conversation for today, so Julie, why don't you let the listeners know a little bit about who you are?
Well, I want to start off by saying I don't claim to be a professional. I, I am simply a single biracial mom in America. I basically was a non-traditional college student and have learned that, things you do the hard way don't always have to be that way. And I guess the best thing I can say is, the difference between a badass and a hard ass is the smile on your face.
Nice. Well, folks, we're both smiling, so I guess we're badasses,
That makes us badasses.
or does that make us hard asses? I don't know.
No. You don't want to be a hard ass. You don't want to be a hard ass.
Nice. If anybody new is listening to the podcast, I have a few other series that I do. I've been doing a Move the Needle series. I've been doing a Spotlight series. But just in case this is your first time listening, I am a Black man here in the United States, and really want to I want to put a positive message out there. There are a lot of things that need to be called out. There are a lot of things that need to be acknowledged and uncovered, and a lot of things that we need to move through. And I want to be part of that. I want to be a leader in that, and I'm so happy that Julie is joining me with that. So that being said, what conversation we do want to jump into today, Julie?
Well, I think we should, like with everything that's going on with quarantine, people coming out of quarantine, I think we've all had a realization as to what's important to us and what it is that we need to change and what we need to do to go about making that change. And I think that's a conversation that we should all have because we've all had struggles and we don't know how to get where we want to be.
Absolutely. Just to piggyback off of what you're saying, so folks understand what we're saying here about the pandemic and quarantine. We are not minimizing the lives that have been lost.
Absolutely.
That is, we definitely empathize and sympathize with anyone who has lost someone during this time. I personally know people who have moved on and become ancestors during this time. But I guess the silver lining, if you will, the positive or a positive aspect of the time that we've had, and this is kind of, I think, to your point, Julie, is that we've had time to kind of sit and think,
Correct.
or to maybe be still and not be so busy and in a rush, right?
Right.
Because we've all been either working from home or at home or just hopefully stuck together. And one thing I've probably posted about this and mentioned it in other places. The pandemic either did one of two things. If you had some unaddressed things beforehand, what it did was it shined a light and it uncovered those things.
Correct. Correct.
And if you had a pretty strong foundation before the pandemic and before quarantine, it also shined a light on that and let you know where you stand afterwards. Um, but so to your point about uh, things that we need to change and how we get there, we've even seen it, kind of politicized at some
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing that comes with change is um, a little bit of a story that we tell ourselves,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And so as humans, it's easy to be status quo, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to just keep going down the path and not stepping outside the box. And so we start telling ourselves these stories, right? We start saying, well, Lee, you're too old to learn anything new. You're too old to start training to become a coach. You what do you mean? You're close, you're on the other side of the hill of 40,
Right.
so why would you learn something new? If that's a story that I was telling myself, then I wouldn't be here with you guys right now,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then I wouldn't have had some personal positive changes. I wouldn't be able to, try to help other people change and make an impact on this earth, So I think a big part of change has to do with whatever story that you're telling yourself.
Correct.
And how long do you want to keep telling yourself a story that isn't true, right?
Right. Right. Because I mean, honestly, we were just talking about the silver lining. The
Hmm.
silver lining and or the gift was time.
Yeah. Yes.
And the
Yes.
fact of the matter is we can constantly and keep telling ourselves, I don't have time to,
Hmm.
but we don't always take the time to say, I need time for.
Hmm.
So, yeah, like you said, it's just you've got to take the time for yourself and realize, my story can change. How do I change that story?
Absolutely. That you just nailed it, right? Your story doesn't have to stay the same. And that's that so many people want to stay stuck in that because it's easy. And we're not sitting here we are not shaming, we're not blaming anyone. Um it's a thing and people do it.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, I'll share a bit of a personal thing in trying to, and you know about this as well,
Hmm.
about being an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
There are so many things that you can do and you can have this great business and you can move forward. But the very thing is, if you start telling yourself the story of, well, I'm not good enough, well, I'm not an expert, I don't have enough training, or no one's going to pay me for whatever service I'm providing or whatever product I'm selling, that becomes a story that you start telling yourself,
Right.
and your business is not going to change from a startup to this, and I'm just paraphrasing here, but a Fortune 500,
Right.
right?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. And
Mhm.
so um, I know that I've had resistance in doing certain things because I'm like, wait, that's too much. Or
Right.
no, I don't want to do that. That's now if it doesn't align with how I feel, then that's a different thing.
Right. Because the thing
But
is, you
just
feel comfortable. You feel that's why you're not doing what you, I don't want to say need to do. It's because you're
yeah,
comfortable.
correct.
And we need to start
Correct.
getting uncomfortable.
Correct. I was just in a conversation with somebody the other day, learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
that's that's and I mean it's it's a cliche, right? But that's so true.
Mhm.
The more comfortable you get with being uncomfortable, the better you get at changing, and it's not as difficult even when there are challenges to changing.
Correct. Correct.
You know, that's funny. No, that's there are so many resistant mindsets to change. But I want to touch on this too. Um, and you know what? Let me go ahead and I'll tease it,
Okay.
and we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and I'll go ahead and follow through with the thought.
Mhm.
But I want to tease this. How do you notice when you're unwilling to change? How do you notice when you're unwilling to change?
Mm.
All right, you guys, hang tight. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, listeners, from that short break. Um, so before the break, we'll do a quick recap, and then we'll hit that little teaser that we talked about. Um, we are here with Cruising with the Coaches. Julie, you met her. Julie Cruz is a co-host, and I guess I didn't say my name, Julie, did I?
I don't think
But
you did. There was an
well,
assumption.
right, right. As assumption, but for those of you who may not have listened to any of my other podcasts or anything like that, my name is Lee Grigsby. So um, that's just a recap of who we are. But the teaser was this: we were talking about resistance to change, right? And the question that I posed was, how can you tell when you are resisting change? How can you tell when you are not ready to change? Do you want to tackle that first, Julie,
Ye
or
honestly, I would have to say it's when you're making everyone else around you uncomfortable.
mm, okay, yeah, good. Dive into that a little
Yeah,
further. Yeah.
and I don't mean the good uncomfortable. I mean the
Mhm.
the avoidance, uh, uncomfortable, like when
Sure.
folks don't want to engage you, um, and you're finding that, you're stagnant, and not
Mm,
only are you being stagnant in your life, you're causing other folks to almost feel as if you are an anchor to their life. Does that
mm.
do you see
Oh,
what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Where you're kind of because you're stuck,
Mhm.
you're kind of stick keeping people stuck with you.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's, like,
Mm,
the worst kind.
mm. Yeah. Okay. That is definitely one way um, that you can tell you're resistant to change.
That
That's
might be the time when it's too late.
that's definitely more overt. That
Yes.
is definitely an overt thing. Well, you know what? I think that shows up in several ways, right?
Mhm.
I think it shows up. So everybody knows how it feels when you're sitting in the front of the class, right? When you were in school, and it's some stuff that you didn't go over, or you didn't personally go over that material, and then there's a quiz or the teacher's asking, and they look right at you, and you're in the front, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't
Right?
even
Damn
I,
it.
I didn't do this. I don't know what I'm talking about, right? So that's that kind of, I think it shows up like that, where this change is happening no matter what.
Right.
But you as in a general person seems to be not wanting to do that change for whatever the reason, and instead of just acquiescing and going ahead and moving forward, like you said, the anchor, right? The
Mhm.
anchor's kind of digs in.
Correct.
So as the other people around you are trying to move forward and change, you are dragging and holding back and pulling back on the rope, actually,
Mhm. Mhm.
that so it shows up that way. Maybe that's a part of not being prepared, right,
Right.
for the change. um I wanted to touch on this actually too, with when we talk about being resistant to change. Earlier, we were talking about stories that people tell themselves, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I want our listeners to really look at that. Look at what is this? What stories have you told yourself over the past week, right? And we all do it, and it can be about anything. So, how many of us try to lose weight, right? Everybody
Mhm.
tries to lose weight. So, what do you tell yourself about why you're not losing weight?
I'm big boned it.
See, there you go. Exactly, right? Oh, well, or how about how's this one? You know what? I'll start on Monday.
Mm.
Today's Tuesday. I'll start Monday,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
That's the story. Well, you know what? I didn't get to the grocery store to get the right things I need to eat, so I'll start next week. I
Mhm.
mean, so those are those little subtle stories, right? That we then keep telling ourselves, but that's what keeps us from reaching that real change that we're looking for.
Right.
And I am big boned, by the way. I'm not just fat. No, I'm kidding. We have fun here too, folks. We
Yes,
have fun
yes.
here too. Because I'll be the first to admit when I'm fat, and I'm okay with that.
Right, right.
Oh, that's funny. Um, so other subtle ways it shows up, um, I think, in the workplace, right? And I'm gonna actually um, kind of talk to you about this one because I'm sure it's showed up not for you personally, but you've seen it in the workplace, right?
Mhm.
It can show up as far as gender is concerned. So I can only imagine for women in a professional setting where all of a sudden the story you're telling yourself is, oh, I'm not qualified for that job, so I'm not going to apply. Or I don't really know how to do that. Or, oh, you know what? There's no other women in the field. There's too many men above me, whatever that story might be, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to, hey, be the trailblazer, right? Make the change that you want to see. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I would have to say it probably, you know, in my, I guess, dare I say, younger years. Um,
In your young years
in my
right now, yes,
right,
in your
yeah.
young years right now.
Yeah, I think I would have said that. I think I would have said, "No, I'm not gonna apply for that. It doesn't look like something that, there's too many men involved, or there's too many men ahead of me, in line for that." Where, once you've built that confidence and, have found, "Okay, I can do this," or "I'm capable of doing this." Like you said, changing your story, because I did. There was a point where I felt like that, where it was just like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like a thing I could do, but do I really want to? I am a
Mhm.
mom. I have things going on at home. And it's just like realizing, you know what? I'm gonna try, because if I don't try, how will I know?
Oh
So
my God,
yeah,
that's that is critical. Say that again.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna try, because if
Yeah.
I don't try, how will I know? How will I? I mean, I
Yep.
can't sit there, and then what do? You beat yourself up about it over
Mhm.
something that you never tried.
And then it becomes this vicious cycle. So you beat yourself up over that one thing, but then
Exactly,
that leads to the next thing that you don't try, but then you beat yourself up for not trying, and you're like, oh man, I'm not as good as I thought I was, or I'm not who I
exactly,
think I am. Oh man.
exactly. And then you're
Dude.
stuck in the fantasy of what could have, should have been,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
so you don't know until you try. So,
Or even you start getting bitter at the people who are doing
mm,
what you want to do.
right, right. Oh, been there, done that.
Because you're like, well, wait a minute. Mm, I had the chance, but or here's the next story. How about that? I had the chance, but I didn't want to. Like
Um,
you,
yeah, I got
that.
tired of saying, "That's not how I would have done it."
And then it gets to the point where you know what? I'm gonna do it.
Right.
I'm gonna try it's that another cliche. Sorry for the sports cliche here, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
You miss them. And so what if you take the shot and miss, right?
Hmm.
But what you've done is you've then started, as you pointed out, also the confidence, right?
Right.
Because you took the shot, you started developing a little bit more confidence,
Hmm.
but then you also started developing a bit more skill.
Right. Right.
So the next time you take the shot, even if you don't make it,
Right.
you're still building confidence, building the skill, because the shot will go in eventually. It will go in.
And once it
More,
does, you will have empowered yourself, and then you will go on to the next new thing.
I love it. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That is how it works. So it's all about trying.
Hmm.
It's
Yep.
all about trying. And sometimes, as we kind of pointed out earlier, it can be uncomfortable, right?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
If it was easy though, everybody would do it.
Exactly.
If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yep.
So I just want to switch gears here for a minute, and as we kind of wrap up today's episode, what might be one thought that you might want to leave our listeners with about change and about being resistant to change?
I think, you know, as you and I had mentioned just talking earlier today,
Hmm.
just in saying, your truth. Find your truth. And don't be afraid to share your truth and understanding that your truth might require some change.
Mm-hmm.
And through that change, you don't have to hurt folks to find your change or your truth. Do you see what I'm saying? Just be open. Have conversations. The key is communication because people can't read what's on your mind,
Hmm.
and you have to share what your thoughts are in order for people to understand where you're coming from.
Man, that's a mic drop. How do I follow that? Yeah, what she said. Yeah, no, I will honestly piggyback off of what you said though. It's being open.
Absolutely.
Everything you said, the communication, being open, and I'm gonna circle back to the main thing that I want people to come away with is try.
Mm,
Is try.
yes.
If you don't try, then it definitely won't happen. But if you do try, you just might be great.
Yep.
So there you go.
There you go.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Julie, man, I appreciate you co-hosting Cruising with the
Yeah.
Coaches with me. It has been a fantastic inaugural episode. Um, I look forward to all the things that we're going to do. And
Yes.
who knows, maybe we'll even turn this into a webcast. You guys might actually see our smiles one day. So,
One day. One day. Yes. Thank you for the invite, Lee. I really, really appreciate it.
of course, of course. All right, folks. That again is our inaugural episode of Cruising with the Coaches. Just a conversation with Julie and Lee. That's it. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on liveallgood.com. Go to the podcast page. You can find every episode of all the Live All Good podcast family, all the different series. And you can also find out more about coaching and how that can actually help you change and reach any goals that you're trying to achieve. All right, you guys, until next time, we'll see you then.